how to perform the perfect set. So I'm basically going to go through my thinking and all the key attributes that you need to internalize when you are performing any set, so that you're getting the most out of that exercise, but also executing whatever exercise it is safely and proficiently. Very, very important, very overlooked. And so I'm going to go through all the key components in this video. So I know that this one is probably obvious to me, but when I see people working out in gyms in public, it clearly isn't obvious to everyone. And it's focus on perfect technique. Make sure you know the key cues and the rules of the movement so that you can perform that movement as safely and effectively as possible. For example, the squat. You don't just want to be thinking squat, go down, go up. We want to ensure that we're doing the movement as proficiently as possible whilst keeping as much tension through the body as possible. And this is going to apply to pretty much every single move. So know the rules of the movement, know the key cues and technique, and that's going to be really important to ensure that you perform that movement efficiently. The next one, make sure that you have an escape route, okay? I know this sounds a bit daunting, but you need to know that you're going to be very safe when you are performing this exercise, just so that you know how to fail safely. So make sure that there's people around you can call out at if you're doing a bench press and you fail. Make sure that your squat rack is set up with pins, all of those things. Just make sure that you are going to be completely safe when performing your exercise. So have that exit strategy in place. So this is one of the most important parts, and it's mastering your setup. So many people, they just do not take time to set up. The most important part of the setup is to ensure that all the parts of the body that are going to be trained are in the right position, and that you are creating as much tension through the body as possible. There's no use of just starting a squat by rushing up to the bar, picking it off and then going. That's just a recipe for disaster. So it's very important that no matter what movement you do, you are really focusing on the setup, nice strong starting position, and take your time with the setup because it's so important and it's going to set the base for solid movement. Me personally, even when I'm doing something like a barbell squat, you'll see me in the gym with nothing on the bar, pretending that there's 100 kg on the bar or more, because I'm really focusing on ensuring that everything is in tension. It's not that the movement itself is difficult. I'm just thinking, I need this setup to be perfect. I need to internalize this now, because when this gets heavier, I really need to be fully dialed in to perform that movement safely and effectively. So the next one, really simple, but make sure you know the parameters of the movement that you're going to do. Make sure you know the exact number of sets, the exact number of reps, how intense that's meant to feel. So how many reps from failure should you be? This is going outside the scope of this video. I don't want to talk about reps in reserve too much, but it's very important that you do know that, and that's going to help you to gauge how much weight you should be using and how that movement should be feeling on each rep. So I'm just switching exercise just so that you can see how this relates to other exercises. And now we're going to be focusing on how to perform the perfect rep and, I guess, perfect set. And the key is to be super mindful with each rep. Most people, they'll go into a set and think, right, I've got to do 10 reps. Let's bash out these 10 reps as quickly as we can. And so you just forget about what each rep should be looking like and how each rep should be feeling. And you're kind of ignoring those parameters, especially tempo. So let's do a set of chest press. And I'm just going to go through this with all the main points considered. We're going to target 6 reps, and we're going to target a 3-2-1 tempo, okay? And I'm not going to focus on RIR. I just want to talk through what I'm thinking through at each set. When I get to the top of the rep, I'm just going to tell you what I'm thinking about. So dumbbells are on the thighs, which means we're ready to set up. So rules of the setup, my elbows are in, and then I'm just going to roll back slowly. And this is no matter what weight I use. And then from here, I'm just going to flare the elbows out slightly and establish a strong starting position. So as you can see, I'm already thinking about the importance of the setup. So we want to explode up for 1 rep. 1. Now, as I'm coming down, I'm thinking, right, bring my elbows diagonally forwards And this is literally what I'm thinking about, just like I'll say to myself in my head, elbows diagonally forwards, something like that. And then I'll bring, and also top of the dumbbells to the shoulder. So that's what I'm thinking, okay? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1. Okay? And then I'll just kind of assess at the end of that rep. Was that a good rep? Was it a bad rep? So let me just do a bad rep now. And the bad rep is going to be elbows going out to the side a bit too much. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. And I'll just say to myself, right, your elbows went a bit too far out. You did not abide by the rules of the movement there. So make sure on the next set, your elbows going slightly further forwards. Now, obviously, I'm not saying all that in the head. It's just kind of a quick thought. And then it's elbows going forwards now. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. Okay? And then again, I'm just assessing after every single rep. How did I perform that rep? Was it a good rep? How do I need to change it before I go again? And then my exit strategy here is dumbbells to thighs, roll forwards, and emerge safely. And so the key takeaway there is we just want to be really focusing on the parameters of the set, the movement, and after every single rep, assessing it to ensure that everything was on point. Now, the good thing about that is when you start to fatigue, let's say you start to break the rules, but the breaking the rules, for example, elbows going out to the side, is more because you're starting to fatigue and you know that you're not going to be able to correct that, stop. That's why you need to be mindful, because once you start to break those rules of the movement, you're no longer training the right patterns and you're potentially at a risk of injury. So, really important, be mindful, be reflective, and that's going to be the best way for you to perform your reps and sets. So the next one, and this is a very common question that people ask about exercises, how should I be breathing when I do this? So that's what we're going to cover. We're essentially covering bracing and breathing. Now, in terms of bracing, I've got another video that I'll link below whereby you can learn the technique for that. But in terms of breathing, let's say you're a complete beginner and you just want to get used to the breathing cycles throughout an exercise, then it's going to be very simple. Focus on exhaling on the exertion. So I'm going to use bicep curls as a very simple example. So you just want to grab the dumbbells like so. I'm getting into position, so knees bent slightly, super tight grip. It's going to be more of a hammer curl. Triceps are locked, body's in tension. So again, set up, focusing on the rules of the movement. Then from here, I'm just going to actually breathe out on the way up. Then inhale as I go down. So for isolation movements like that, I think that is absolutely fine. But when it comes to compound movements, especially squats, and the heavier we get, it's going to be very useful to brace. And again, please see the video link below that teaches you exactly how to brace and the importance of it. This is linked to be mindful with each of your reps, but I think it's very important that we just go through what things should look like towards the end of the set and how to safely finish. And so we're going to use the barbell squat as an example again. Towards the end of the set, most people have a tendency to just really speed up their movements. They're like, oh, I need to get this done as quickly as possible. We want you to start thinking the opposite. Okay, you've already established how you're going to fail and failing safely. But if we start to rush our movement, this is going to potentially put our body in injurious positions. We're going to move too quickly into positions that we don't have control of. Slow is controlled. So you want to almost exaggerate that slow, controlled movement so that you're keeping tension through the body and so that everything's in control. So for the barbell squat, let's say I've got 2 more reps left on this super heavy weight. I've done my 7th rep, okay, and my 7th rep kind of looked like this. Okay, it was super slow. Now this is where people start to panic and they're like, oh, you know, and it just looks absolutely terrible. What you want to do is like, okay, mindful. That was a hard rep. I now need to focus even more to ensure that it's going to be a good, safe rep. And I probably need to slow that down. So slow, controlled, keep the tension, keep the knees out, push the bar into the ceiling, lock out. So we're regaining even more control of the movement. And then when you finish that set, So let's just say we're doing our final rep. Knees up, push your chest up. It's slow, but it's controlled. Snap the hips through, bang. Make sure you know how to re-rack or whatever it is that you need to do to finish your exercise safely, and then down, okay? So that is how you should focus on finishing your sets. Make sure that they're intense, but make sure that the movements are slow, controlled, and that you are not rushing. So one thing that's really important is the position whereby we want to be safest at in whichever exercise that we're doing, and that's typically going to be the fully lengthened range. And so it's really important that when we're moving down, let's say I like to use squats as an example, when we're moving down into a squat, at the bottom of the movement, we are in full tension, and that's going to ensure that we're really exploring that end range as safely as possible. We don't want to be going into that end range quickly and bouncing out of it. That's where we need to have full control. And if in doubt, just put in a 2-second hold at the bottom, because that is really going to be the most important part of the movement, and that's going to be the place where you need to be the safest. So focus on moving into the end range slowly, being safe and controlled in the end range before you come out of that end range. So there you have it, guys. Inside the mind of a perfect set, these are things that you should be thinking about in order to ensure that your movement is as safe and effective as possible. And this is going to ensure that you've got longevity with your training, and it's going to help ensure the quickest progress possible, because this is really the way to ensure that you don't take any shortcuts. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.